You live in a time of great achievements and great opportunities. There is a scope for us to come to a fresh understanding of ourselves, of our world, and of the center mystery of being that we call God. We need to awaken our spiritual intelligence, our ability to listen, understand, and respond. The biblical account of creation is not a statement about how the world came into existence. It is the business of science to study the origins and development of the world and mankind. But understanding the meaning of our being here and the missions and opportunities that life presents are tasks for spiritual reflection, for theology and philosophy. When we declare that God is the creator and He created the world, we are saying nothing about the manner of the natural origin of the world. What we are doing thereby is to accept a commitment about how we treat the world. When we perceive nature, the world, as a God's creation and mission, we thereby accept a commitment to protect and cultivate nature. If nature is for me a gift from God, I have no right to destroy it. If I declare that God is the Father of all people, I thereby commit myself to regarding all people as my brothers and sisters, all people, men and women and children of all nations, races, cultures, and religions. If I declare God to be the Creator and Father of all people, I thereby undertake to oppose discrimination of all kinds, as well as racism, religious intolerance, the exploitation of people, and in particular to oppose the misuse of religion to disseminate hatred and the justification of violence. To believe in God the Father means doing everything to prevent cultural wars and the clash of civilizations. To believe in God the Father, who created all people in His own image, is to commit oneself to respect the dignity of every human person and his or her fundamental rights. Belief in God, the Creator and Father of all people, has serious political implications. If it is the Creator who is the originator and giver of human rights, and not the state or society, then no state nor any political regime has the right to remove or violate those rights and freedoms. They must respect them. This emphasis on the sacred basis of human rights gave us strength in the struggle against totalitarian regimes, but is also important to bear it in mind in free and democratic societies. The ratification of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was undoubtedly an important step towards protecting the dignity of men and women. But there is another step that must be taken. The task of our and future generations is to realize the corresponding moral duties. There is no freedom unless rights are respected. Likewise, there is no freedom unless our duties are fulfilled. There is no freedom without responsibility. The best way to protect human dignity is to inspire people to acknowledge and accept freely their moral duties and obligations. Believers and unbelievers are not two clearly separate groups like two soccer teams. The playing field for the contest between belief and unbelief is within each individual human heart and human mind. When talking to atheists, one often discovers that many of them do not reject the God of our faith, but instead they repudiate their own notion of God, which is actually a caricature of God that they themselves have created or uncritically borrowed from others. When many atheists tell me what a God they don't believe in looks like, I'm obliged to respond, "Thanks God that you don't believe in such a God. I too do not believe in such a God. Such a God truly does not exist. Thanks God." The chief antithesis and opponent of belief is not atheism, but idolatry. The only real opponent of belief is that type of atheism that is inconsistent. In place of God, it places another God, an idol, and it becomes idolatry. There are as many kinds of belief as there are believers, and as many types of unbelief as there are unbelievers. There is one type of atheism, however, that truly deserves our respect and understanding. I refer to people who have been wounded by evil, injustice, and suffering. Some of them say, "I'd like to believe in God, but I'm not able to trust. Life seems tragic and absurd to me." Others react to the fact of evil by protest and are allergic to the very word God. I think that an atheist who protests against God is actually closer to God than an atheist, someone who is apathetic and indifferent to God and religion. Even protest against God is a form of communication with God. There are atheists who suffer from the silence and hiddenness of God. I'm convinced that it would be an enormous mistake to confront such people with rational arguments in the favor of belief in God. They need to be shown that believers share similar experiences to their own, that believers also know moments of God's hiddenness and silence. Believers and atheists gaze the same cloud that conceals the mountain of God's hiddenness. They simply look at it from different perspectives. If faith is not an ideology but a journey, then there are sections of the route when believers have to walk in the darkness of night and traverse deserts. Even Jesus' story includes that moment of Good Friday when the Son of God himself experienced abandonment by God. Chesterton wrote that Christianity is the only one religion in which God seemed for an instant to be an atheist. Experience of God's hiddenness is an inner moment of the drama of faith. We cannot overcome atheism of that kind except by embracing it. The atheist wounded by suffering does not need our arguments, but our solidarity, understanding, and embrace. Only when we take seriously the pain and darkness of Good Friday may we hope, then others will take seriously our hope in the light of the Easter morning. Every Sunday, millions of Christians recite, "I believe in the resurrection of the body and the life everlasting." But what do they actually believe in? And what do most of the people around us expect? It appears that more and more people look forward to a long, dreamless sleep after a long life. More and more people in the West believe in reincarnation. But do they mean by the word reincarnation the same as the spiritualities of the Far East? My colleague from the Religious Studies Department has a poster above his desk that reads, "Born stupid, try again." I'm convinced that we must first of all make several important distinctions. It is necessary to distinguish faith from religious imagination. It's necessary to distinguish hope from optimism. It's necessary to distinguish life after life from eternal life. The Christian faith is not an ideology, a set of conviction. It is the courage to enter the cloud of mystery. This also implies the courage to abandon many human images associated with religion. In many cases, the crisis of belief in eternal life is chiefly a crisis of confidence in those images, which are products of religious imagination and fantasy. We should thank the critics of religion who demonstrated to us that many of those particular notions were truly projections of people's fears and desires. What mankind experienced in the course of the 20th century also provoked a crisis in traditional notions of heaven and hell. Traditional notions of hell paled in a comparison with the inventions of 20th century totalitarian regimes, Hitler's and Stalin's concentration camps. And compared to technological miracles and the entertainment industry, the traditional ideas of heaven and paradise seem rather dull. But if our faith and hope in eternal life have been stripped of the old-time images, they need not be ashamed of their nakedness. Hope, our naked Christian hope, is something totally other than optimism. Modern times have exchanged joy for entertainment and the virtue of hope for the illusion of optimism. In my country, it is said that optimist is someone who lacks information. Optimism is the illusion that everything is simply getting better and better, that the human journey is the progress in one direction. Hope is the strength to endure and not give up in situations when everything is becoming more and more arduous. God give us hope, not an exact information about what will happen to us after death. That is a mystery. That is the test of our trust in God's almighty love. It is part of our trust that death is not a God, and therefore will not have the last word. We believe that God and His love will have the last word. God keeps us the best wine till last, as we know from the Gospel story of the wedding in Cana. The word we use for the great surprise, for the great gift of God at the end of everything is resurrection. The eternal life that Jesus spoke about is more than just life after death. Eternal life is living to the full. It is life that surpasses and transcends what restricts and deforms our lives. What chiefly deforms our lives is our sin, our selfishness. Love is that real transcendence. In love, we transcend our limitations. Love alone is powerful enough at the end to transcend even the boundary of life and death. Death is not God. Death is not omnipotent and eternal. God is God because God is love. Everlasting life is everlasting love. Eternity and love are two words for the same thing. For many people, the existence of evil in the world is the main obstacle to believe in a good and all-powerful God. I personally do not regard evil in the world as a convincing argument against God. The contrary, rather. If the world was perfect and there was no evil in it, then the world itself would be God. Then I would see no reason to raise the question of God. Then I would not have the motivation or courage to go on asking questions, searching even beyond the horizon of the answers that the world offers me. It is precisely when we confront evil that we realize how limited is our capacity to comprehend and understand. Our lives and our world are just a fragment. To discover the meaning of a fragment, such as the meaning of a fragment of some text, it is necessary to know the context. We are fragment. The world is a fragment. Our story is a fragment. God is the context. The meaning and significance of the world and of life, including its darker pages, can only be found in context, in wider context, only in God. The trouble is that we don't have that context, God, easily available here. God remains a mystery for us. Si comprehendis non es Deus. If you have understood it, or think you have understood it, then you can be sure that it is not God. St. Augustine teaches us. When I open the Bible, I cannot find any simple answer there. The Bible offers not theories and definitions, but stories. In Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, we find stories about people who have the same problems with evil as we do. Abraham bargains with God. Job argues with God, and Jacob actually wrestled with God. God would seem to like those who wrestle with him. It is a difficult fight. Some experiences of evil and suffering are a great test of faith. They are also for us believers, moments when God is silent or hidden. One answer suggests itself at that point: God is dead. God doesn't exist. But isn't this answer too simple? Isn't this answer an expression of impatience? I don't tell atheists they are wrong. I tell them they don't have enough patience. Also, religious fundamentalists have no feeling for the quiet music of God's silence, but simply go on repeating their old phrases. Evil, suffering, and tragedy present our faith with hard questions. But we, people of faith, must not be afraid of questions, even those for which we don't know all answers now. Our faith does not provide us with final answers at the present time, but it gives lives to hope and patience. It teaches us the art of living with mystery and enduring paradoxes of life. I know 3 expressions of patience in the face of God's silence and hiddenness, and they are faith, hope, and love. Even in the darkest moments of history, God is with us. He is present in the patient faith of those who do not give up at such moments, who retain their hope and bear testimony to love. I once saw on the wall of the Prague metro station the inscription, "Jesus is the answer," probably written by one of our evangelical Christians. That same day, someone else had added the words, "But what was the question?" It reminds me of a comment by philosopher Eric Fagerin. The biggest problem for today's Christians isn't that they don't have the right answers. The problem is that they have forgotten the questions to which they are the answers. Answers without questions are like trees without roots. But how often are Christian truths presented to us like felled, lifeless trees in which birds can no longer find a nest? Only the confrontation of questions and answers can return the real meaning and dynamic to our statements. Truth happens in the course of dialogue. Let it be said over and over again, faith is not a question of problems, but of mystery. We must never abandon the path of seeking and asking. A problem can be solved once forever. Mystery, unlike problems, cannot be overcome. Mystery invites us to try to understand it again and again, to go deeper and deeper. Mystery is abysmal, bottomless. We must shift from problems to mystery, from apparently final answers back to infinite questions. Questions are sometimes more important than answers. There are questions that are so good that it is pity to spoil them with answers. I'm convinced that God approaches us as a question rather than an answer. Nowadays, many people no longer raise the question of God. Maybe this is precisely the time that God comes and poses the questions himself in the way he once did to his servant Job. I'm going to ask the questions, you answer them. He asks us, as he did his servant Adam, where are you? He asks us, as he did his servant Cain, where is your brother? When we ask who is God and whether God exists, we ought to ask first of all, who am I? Where am I? Why am I here? What the meaning of my life? And also, where is my brother? The Irish philosopher Richard Kearney wrote a book entitled The God Who May Be. Truly, God does not come to us as a fact, as an external object, but rather as a possibility, as a challenge, as an offer, as an invitation and an appeal. When you accept the task I offer you, I shall be with you, God says to Moses in the Bible from the burning bush. God comes to us as a question whether we are ready to accept the task to which he invites and challenges us. If we accept the task he has chosen for us, he will lead us and give us the strength to go beyond the previous boundaries of our capabilities. He will give us the strength to go beyond the boundaries of our ego, our egoism, and our self-worship. He will allow us to experience the miracle of self-transcendence, the miracle of love. His first words to people are very often, fear not. have no fear.